Hi everybody, it's Alexa here from Once Upon a Chapter. I am here to show you my January 2015 TBR. So I did okay in December. I think I managed to read like 5.5 books and get it partway into some other books. It wasn't amazing, but then again, there was a point in December where I was working 12 days in a row and 1 week where I actually worked like 15 to 20 hours of overtime and got called back in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was kind of a busy month, and then with the holidays and with the new year and with everything going on, and Johnny actually just moved in here yesterday. So there's been a lot going on for the past 2 weeks where I didn't really get a chance to read, but I kind of want to hopefully make up for that in January, but we'll see what's happening. So let's just get straight into the pile. The first book that I have on top of the pile is The Shadow Reader. This is actually an urban fantasy book that Candace from Candace's Book Blog bought me, more towards the time when this came out, probably I'd say a year to 2 years ago, and sadly I still haven't read it, but I've been trying to get into some more paranormal and urban fantasy adult reads for this year and part of last year, so I definitely want to pick up this one. A book that has been sadly on my pile that is a paranormal romance that I have been wanting to read, I think, for 3 or 4 months in a row now, and I really need to make it a point this month, is Bound by Night. The second book to this one actually just recently, I think it's Chained by Night, or Chained by something. It just recently came out, I think, a month or so ago. So if I really love this one, I can jump right into the second one without really having to wait in between books. So that'd be awesome if I actually pick this one up this month. So hopefully this will happen so that I can stop showing it on my TBR. Another book that is actually new, I just got this for Christmas, and I have been dying to read it. It was the top book that I wanted on my Christmas wish list. Even though a lot of people are saying this series is getting redundant at this point in time, I don't really care. I still like it, and I really enjoyed the third book the best out of the whole series, so I hope this fourth book is just as good. And it is Captivated by You, which is a Crossfire novel. This is adult, like, erotic romance type of thing, and you know, it's one of those newer ones where the guy is, you know, a big, powerful billionaire type of guy who runs a company, and he's very of a alpha male dominant type of personality who takes in a woman who, you know, is maybe not as sexually advanced as him, kind of storyline. And usually, I say kind of all those romances that are like that ever since 50 Shades of Grey came out. I usually am not very impressed with these, but I have been liking each book in this series more and more as the series has gone along, so I also hope that I like this one. Even if it is kind of just trashy romance, it works for me for some reason, so I'm going to stick with it. Moving on to kind of some books that I have been wanting to read, but haven't for some reason. They're YA books, too. First one is Throne of Glass. I have had this book. This is actually an art copy of this book that I got at one of the ALA conventions. The ALA annual 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. I got this at the ALA convention. So I picked it up one time, and I think I got like 150 or so pages into it. And it wasn't that it was a bad book, it's just that I was reading so many other books while I was trying to read this book. I had a lot of review books and tour books and everything like that I basically fell off the wagon with this book, and I meant to keep reading it, but by the time I got around to getting back into the storyline, I was like, oh my gosh, it's been so long since I read those first 150 pages, I'm just going to have to restart the book. But at the time I didn't really feel like restarting it. But now that the most recent one, Heir of Fire, has come out, and I got that one at this past ALA annual, I really need to get into this series because I own the first 3 books, and it'd be really nice just to kind of jumpstart into it and get going with it, especially since a lot of people have been reading this series lately and absolutely loving it. So I want to absolutely love it too. And like I said, what I read of it before I had stopped was really good and really interesting, and I really liked the characters and the concept and the world, but sadly it kind of just slipped through the cracks with me. Another book that I have been dying to read for a very long time. Unfortunately, this author is a UK-based author, and so her books tend to get published in the UK way in advance of getting published in the US. And for the longest time, this book wasn't even on the book depository, so it's not like I could like get it, even though it's a book that's not published in the U.S., but Stephanie here at Once Upon a Chapter was actually nice enough to find me a copy because I guess they have it on Book Depository now. It was in stock for once. So she, luckily enough, snagged me a copy of this and sent it my way. I don't really know where she got it from, but I'm hoping it's from Book Depository because it's, again, the UK edition, because it still has not been published in the US. They keep pushing back the release date of it. But anyway, it is Hurt. This is actually the author who wrote the book Forbidden, which was about a teenage brother and sister who are basically like raising a family together because their mom is an alcoholic and I think she did some drugs and stuff in that book. And some people were very conflicted about that book because of what happens near the end of that book. People didn't really like that type of relationship that was building there. But I absolutely love Forbidden. And so based on loving her other book that did get published in the US, I really want to read this one. The reviews on this are kind of mixed on Goodreads, but because I really love this author and I know she had a lot of mixed reviews on Forbidden, I cannot wait to read this. I've been pining for this book for so long, and now that it's actually in my hands, I'm kind of a little bit like shocked, I guess, and so I really, really just want to read it. Some books that I need to get around to basically finishing reading at this point because they were books that I started last year or books that I started like just as December was ending. You know, used to call it last year, but it was just a couple days ago. But one of these is actually a book that I started back in, I think, August, and I kept reading certain parts of it and I just couldn't like get around to finishing it basically because it was boring me, which is really weird because it hasn't been boring a lot of other people, so I'm kind of concerned, you know, where the series is going. I don't have the cover on it, but this is Cress. It is the third book in the Lunar Chronicle series, and I really adored Cinder, and I actually really like Scarlet as well. Cinder's still my favorite of the series. I think I rated that like a 4.5, and I think I gave Scarlet a 4. This one, I feel like the story is getting very redundant. It's like the same thing over and over again, and all we're doing is adding in extra characters to basically kind of slow ourselves down. Like, you know, this is like a space exploration, kind of futuristic in a way, scientific-y in a way, and I really, really, really just want there to be some conflict in this book, like to be something happening. And instead all they're doing is like introducing us to Cress and giving us her boring story, and then, you know, they all get split up in this book, so like, you know, the story's taking places of multiple point of views because Cress, Scarlet, and Cinder are in 3 different locations, and there's been some things happening, but because everybody's just kind of spread out and they're all like in different sections of the world right now, or in space, or wherever they currently are, it's just really hard to like want to keep reading this because everybody's separated, and I feel like we're not making great leaps and bounds in the plot line as far as the overall main story points are going. But I did get this past year, over the course of like 4 months, I did get almost 300 pages into this, and it is like it's 550 pages, so if I can just brace myself through the second half of this book and hope that the second half of this book gets better than the first half, or maybe it's going to pick up and I just stopped at the wrong point. I don't really know, but I really just need to finish this at this point because I want to see if Cress is going to get any better or not, and if I'm going to even continue on with this series, because the next book is supposed to come out like sometime in January, which is about the Queen of the Moon, which I think she's an interesting character, so I kind of want to read that one, but I just hope that this picks up. Honestly, I don't know. Another book that I did start in December, you know, so just a week or so ago, and just didn't get a chance to finish right before the new year hit. I think I'm about halfway exactly into this one, but I don't have the jacket on this one either. But this is Allegiant, which is the third and final book in the Divergent series. I read Divergent a year or two ago, and a couple months ago I read Insurgent, and so I figured let's just keep on going with this series. I was hoping to finish this one in 2014 so I could count it as like a series that I wrapped up, but that just didn't happen because of time. So I am really interested in this one. It's going in a slightly different direction than I thought it was going to go, which is actually more interesting to me. I think some people didn't like that it went in that direction, but so far I'm really enjoying where it is going. I just need to sit down and finish it. And another book that I need to finish is The Titan's Curse, which is the Percy Jackson series. This is the third book in this series. Again, I started this at the very, last couple days of 2014, so I'm just continuing it now. I'm about halfway into this one. These are really quick reads. They're only like 300 pages a piece, and the print is pretty big size, and since they are middle grade, the pacing just seems to go pretty quickly. This is very Harry Potter-esque to me, so sometimes I have issues with the series because I think it's just very similar to Harry Potter in ways, and because I love Harry Potter so much, this kind of just seems like a slightly younger version of Harry Potter in a way, which I guess is really cool because, I mean, Harry Potter does get pretty dark, and so there should be something out there for middle grade kids to read. So I kind of feel like this was like the biggest thing after Harry Potter, or the biggest thing for like kids who were born out of the age range of Harry Potter, like they were born after, like when I was a kid, because I was a kid when Harry Potter was coming out. The first Harry Potter book released when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And then I just continued reading them as a preteen and a teenager, so forth and so on. So I kind of feel like for people who were like just like the age range younger than me, they read the Percy Jackson series as their Harry Potter series. And since the spin-off series, which is The Lost Heroes, the first one, and that one I can't remember the name of that series right now. The Olympians, or I don't even know what the name of that series is. I have it somewhere. I have the first 3 books in the spin-off series of this as well, so I really just kind of want to get through Percy Jackson this year in order to kind of keep going. They're good books, I just think they're very Harry Potter-esque. And the last book on my list, I actually haven't started this one, so I guess I'm kind of doing these books out of order. I did some books that I haven't started yet, I did some books that I need to finish, and then I'm jumping back to a book that I need to start yet. But I read Spider's Bite, the first book in the Elemental Assassin series by Jennifer Stepp, in December, and I highly, highly enjoyed it. I thought it was the perfect mix of urban fantasy meets like romance. Like there was actually more romance in it than you would usually get in a normal urban fantasy book. So I want to continue on by reading the second book in the series, which is Web of Lies. I do own like the first 5 books or so in the series, so since the first one was so great and I loved it so much, I cannot wait to see how Jin's story continues in the rest of the series, and I hope that this one is just as good, if not better, than the first one. So that is all the books that I am trying to read. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full-length novels that I need to start and finish, and 3 books that I am like halfway through each one and just need to finish off the half of it. I'm trying to keep my piles a little bit less in 2015 because I noticed in 2014 when I made videos, I was picking like 12 or 13 books to read, and honestly, I just don't read that fast. I can't read 13 books in a month. I mean, unless I had like a huge span of time where I wasn't really doing anything and I wasn't working all the overtime and I wasn't on call at the hospital and things like that. I guess then I could read 13 books, or if the 13 books were like itty-bitty books, I could get through them, but that's never going to happen. So I'm trying to keep my piles more between 6 to 8 books because I feel like each month I usually read somewhere between 5 and 9 books or so a month, so I feel like that's a comfortable number to stay between and actually try and achieve the TBR goal of reading these books. Which brings me to also, at the beginning of this post, you saw all my goals for reading for 2015. I do not join reading challenges anymore because I feel like they just don't suit my needs. So if you'd like to follow my goal progress throughout the year, every year towards the beginning of the month, I say the goals that are already listed, and I show how many books I read of those different categories in order to push myself to read the full extent of the categories. And I actually did pretty well with this in 2014. I actually exceeded most of the categories in 2014 that I had set up for myself, so I increased those numbers for 2015 to kind of say, hey, you met this goal of reading 15 books in this category in 2014, let's try reading 20 books in 2015. So you can check that out above this video if you'd like to do that on the blog. If you're watching this off YouTube, of course you won't see that. You'll have to actually go to the blog link to see that. So yeah, happy 2015 everybody. I hope you have a great reading start to your new year. Bye guys!